Thanks for staying with To The Point. The big question we've decided to ask here on Headlines today on the first day of the new year is because of what happened starting yesterday afternoon. It went on all night. One BSF Jawan was killed in the Samba sector and 4 Pakistani Rangers were killed. It's been one of the heaviest exchanges of fire to mark the end, what has been without a doubt one of the most violent years as far as the Indo-Pak ceasefire is actually concerned. More than 560 ceasefire violations. The big question we're asking tonight and putting on debate here on To The Point is, what assurance do we have that 2020 actually in fact going to be an even bloodier year as far as India and Pakistan are concerned? There is no assurance that those ceasefire violations are going to end, and on multiple other points that we're going to be bringing you over the next 20 minutes is that Pakistan's provocations are in fact only likely to spiral completely out of control on the line of control as well as the international border. Joining me this evening, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, former Director General of Infantry of the Indian Army and also a well-known commentator and strategic affairs analyst. With me in the studio here, our editor of strategic affairs, Gaurav Sawant, who's been tracking the story. He's broken several bits of news that put into perspective why 2015 could be an even worse year on the border for India and Pakistan. And in just a moment from now, we'll be joined by our guests from Pakistan as well to get a perspective from across the border. General Prasad, the question we're asking tonight, may be interpreted by many as cynical. They're entitled to that opinion, but it's a pragmatic one given simply what we've seen in the last, 17 to 20 hours, sir. Since yesterday afternoon till now, we've had near relentless firing that's taken place, unusually heavy exchange that took place in Samba sector yesterday, and some very harsh things that have been said. Even New Year wasn't enough, to put the guns down a little bit, to relax a little bit, let the soldiers enjoy their New Year. It was full violence even on New Year Day, perhaps setting the tone, sir, for 2015?
It is indeed very sad that Pakistan refuses to see sense. I sincerely hope that 2015 will bring some sense into them and think about their own country and think about their own people and think about their own development. That country is turning out to be a country which is a failed state. Just the entire world is saying so, not only us. And it is time Pakistan hopefully will understand something like this in 2015. But having said this, I have serious doubts if they will ever take this sense into their minds. The possibility is that it is going to be worse. It could be worse. Terrorism could peak further, insurgency could peak further, and the activities in the line of control in Kashmir and on the international border in Jammu can escalate. But they must understand that in the last 6 months, the government in India has changed.
Right.
The thinking of the security forces in India has changed. The thinking of the decision makers in the government in India has changed. It will be to their peril if they want to escalate all of it. I think the sense is in to understand that our Prime Minister is willing to talk. Our Prime Minister appreciates that dialogue is the way forward. War is not an answer. But should Pakistan continue to choose to do what it is doing, well, then the answers are available. Some demonstration of that has been given in the past couple of months. Yes. If they wish to see more of it, they are most welcome to do that.
Okay, let's get a...
The costs are going to be very heavy on Pakistan for this.
Okay, so the costs are going to be heavy. That was demonstrated at least in some measure yesterday as well. Gaurav, before I come to you about some more specific, ways of looking at this story, I want to bring in a perspective from Rashid Rehman, senior journalist, editor of the Daily Times in Pakistan. Mr. Rehman, thanks for speaking to us this evening on To The Point here on Headlines today. This is being interpreted as an indication, Mr. Rehman, the activities that have taken place over the last 24 hours, what has happened in the Samba sector, heavy exchange of fire, the Deputy High Commissioner of India being called there, Pakistan apparently in denial about what's happening on the border, provocations continuing, an indication that 2015 could be a whole lot worse. Mr. Rehman, your perspective?
Well, it's very unfortunate, as one of your speakers was saying just now, a very inauspicious beginning to the new year, if I may so put it. I heard someone say on your program just now that Pakistan is a failed state. Everybody is saying it. But let me just add a corollary. If it is a failing or failed state, then obviously what is happening of late, especially after the Peshawar massacre of school children, is that this troubled state finally may be turning the corner towards dealing with terrorism.
But it doesn't show, sir.
No, let me finish. Now, of course, there are many questions and reservations about whether this turnaround is consistent across the board. Because while the military and the civilian political forces, government, etc., are all focusing on internal terrorism, questions still remain whether proxies, whether going westwards or eastwards, are also going to be restrained.
But that's simply not enough. I mean, how is that an explanation for, what's happening in the interim, Mr. Rashid? Okay,
I will explain if you'll give me a chance.
I take your point.
Please.
I take your point. I take your point. I understand what you're saying. I understand the point that you're making. We've had that said here on Headlines Today before. But I want to also bring in another Pakistani voice. Lieutenant Colonel retired Shafqat Saeed is also live with us from Islamabad. Colonel Saeed, an inauspicious beginning is one way to, look at it. Maybe the kindest way to look at what has happened over the last 24 hours. Another way to look at it is that a status quo on the international border means heavy exchanges of fire, heavy casualties. Pakistan provokes, India retaliates in a heavy manner, and there are casualties on both sides. Is that what 2015 is going to be about, Colonel? About casualties on both sides, and that's going to be what is normal?
No, I don't wish that, and I am sure that it would not be like that, and this is because Pakistan is not playing to the music that India is playing to Pakistan. Pakistan is not dancing to the music that India is playing, because Pakistan is absolutely not at all getting excited, or Pakistan is not retaliating the way India wants Pakistan.
Your Rangers raised white flags yesterday, sir. Your Rangers had to raise white flags yesterday.
Whatever has happened yesterday. Now this is a war of mistrust. The base of this war, the reason for this war is mistrust. I am a student of peace and conflict resolution.
Right.
I did my masters in this. Right. I am fellow of this student.
Sure.
And I'm going. What I want to tell you is that I am a retired lieutenant colonel, but I am a student of peace and conflict resolution. Now in this conflict cannot be resolved because both sides have no trust. There's big trust deficit.
That's a broad issue, and sir. Permit me to say that's a very broad issue. No, about trust, people know all about trust. The question on the table here is not about trust. Everybody knows about the complete lack of trust. Everybody knows about, how mechanisms in the past have failed as well. The simple question I'm putting to you is, the indications from Pakistan are that India has no reason to trust Pakistan. Even Peshawar hasn't brought about a change of heart.
And same is the case. I would like to be neutral at the moment. No. But same is the case. The Pakistan is saying that there is nothing to be trusted in India. Nobody can be trusted in India. This is what their opinion is. And therefore this conflict exists.
Okay.
And how to address this conflict?
Okay.
How would we create that trust? That's what I'm to tell you.
My colleague Gaurav Savant has a direct question for you, sir. Gaurav, go ahead.
I carry with me the post-Peshawar threat assessment that comes to India from Pakistan. Let me just point out 3 facts. One, Lieutenant General Subrat Saha, the 15 Corps commander, said there are 160 to 170 terrorists who are waiting to cross over north of Pir Panjal. This intelligence alert says there are equal numbers south of Pir Panjal. Yesterday, the Pakistani Rangers began with the ambush. There was punitive strike and that led to firing. So, again, this assessment says that there are between 500 to 800 Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists undergoing training in Pakistan, short of being at their launch pads, can be launched. The US is drawing down in Afghanistan. Afghan authorities have taken over security. Pakistan poses a clear threat to India and Indian interests in Afghanistan. So the threat is 2 ways, and post-Peshawar, Colonel, there has been no offensive against either the Haqqani network or the Quetta Shura. So your war against the Taliban is still with a forked tongue.
Colonel,
right? We were talking of mistrust. These intelligence reports, these would continue.
No. Shiv, I'd like to say something about the trust part of it.
That India is financing everything that is taking place in Fatah, right?
And you were born yesterday to believe that.
I don't believe
that's ridiculous, sir. Come on.
I would not like
Come
to
on.
counter your allegation.
Let me just clarify a doubt about the trust deficit.
No, I want to bring General Prasad. Then General Prasad, you have something directly to say to Colonel Saeed.
No. I want to speak to
Listen to the General Colonel, then you can give us a comprehensive reply. Yeah, General.
Yeah, Colonel Saab is a retired Lieutenant Colonel, but a student of peace, and therefore he must understand how this trust deficit can be reduced or removed. And the trust deficit can be removed by bringing peace on the line of control.
Correct.
And by bringing peace on the international border.
Yeah.
That is very much possible. And also, if the training camps across the line of control, which are currently functioning in the numbers of 30 to 40, can be removed and evidence provided that these training camps have stopped functioning, trust deficit can reduce. If Hafiz Saeed, who's the mastermind of Mumbai and Lakwi and Dawood Ibrahim, who have been classified as terrorists, can be acted upon by Pakistan government, that can reduce trust deficit. Therefore, Colonel Saab, there are many options available to reduce this trust deficit. Yes, there is a tremendous trust deficit, but that needs to be removed. We've got to find ways and means to remove it. Both countries will be very happy if better trust develops.
Okay, I buy all of your points, that right, these are the points, but these are not the final points. These are points from your side. Now, I would like to tell you a few points that Pakistan wants from you. And those points are that how would you like the peace to prevail on international, line of control? When you have asked the UN observers to pack up and push off. And then since they have pushed off, since they have packed up, the violation on line of control have increased. How do you say that Pakistan
one by one I can answer you.
India and then Pakistan has
let the general answer you.
No, that is not correct.
One by one we can answer you. Colonel Saab, the United Nations Observers Group has no locus standi.
Correct.
It has been agreed by both Pakistan and India
that
we will resolve our problems bilaterally. This is an agreement which is arrived at between the heads of government. No, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. The heads of governments of Pakistan and India have both agreed that we will resolve our matters bilaterally, and therefore the United Nations Observer Group have no locus standi. Now, as far as the ceasefire violations are concerned, many mechanisms are available. No, many mechanisms are available.
Okay.
There are talks of the DGMO. There are flag meetings options available. No, it's not a clever. Look, you are a student of peace. Let us talk peace. Let us talk peace, and peace can be achieved by just resorting to these methods. I'm not very aggressive about it.
The onus as far as trust. I think the short point the general is making, Colonel, is that the onus of trust is on Pakistan. It's not on India. It's on Pakistan. The provocations come from Pakistan's side. You know, we can keep going to and fro forever,
this is your
right through to 2015.
From Pakistan.
But terror attacks coming from your side, the infiltrations.
You have dismantled that mechanism which could lay the responsibility, which could pinpoint the violator of the...
I want to bring Gaurav back in. No, I want to bring Gaurav, you know, today,
Pakistan...
Gaurav, I have a specific question for you, and I want you to, dwell on that just a little bit. Rajnath Singh today, the Home Minister of India today said, he said something pretty unusual. I mean, we've heard, harsh things that have been said on both sides. Today, just a few hours after what happened in Samba sector, the Indian Home Minister said, and I don't know if you know this, Colonel, he said that nobody dare look at the border because they're going to get a retaliation, indicating what had happened yesterday. Now, this is not a question of a bean count, Colonel. Nobody celebrates the death of anybody. Okay, we here are journalists. We're not here attacking Pakistan. We're sitting here saying that peace has to be an imperative. It can't be some kind of lofty ideal that we're going to chase forever, both between India and Pakistan. The question we're asking is, and this is something that Gaurav and I have discussed as well, is, bloodletting on the border, Colonel, going to be a status quo issue? Is that what we're going to come to see as normal? Gaurav, the Home Minister, what he said today, tell us a little bit more about what he really meant, because this means that the smallest provocation is going to see massive retaliation from India.
you know, whether it's Home Minister Rajnath Singh or the Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar, the template is very clear.
Yeah.
There will be punitive action should Pakistan violate the sanctity of the line of control, whether it's a border action team, whether it's firing, mortar or shelling. India is prepared, and India will ensure for every one shell that comes from Pakistan, there will be several from Indian side just to ensure Pakistan stops. We're talking about the road ahead, Shiv. Will 2015 be bloodier?
Yeah.
It will be bloodier. It will be bloodier because the Pakistan army is taking no steps to stop either the firing, the shelling, the infiltration, the border action team. What is worse, the Lashkar-e-Taiba is now training lone wolf attacks, and that is something that the intelligence apparatus is extremely concerned about. So that is something Pakistan-sponsored terror will see a new form. There would be lone wolf attacks. There would be high-profile strikes in civilian areas, you know, trying and motivate youngsters through the internet to try and attack. And all of this, Pakistan can stop, but it is not stopping. So there will be punitive action from India. There's a new template in place.
Colonel, I'm just going to come to you in just a moment. I want to bring in, I want to get in a quick word from Sultan Ali, who's a defense analyst who also joins us live from Islamabad. Mr. Ali, thanks for speaking to us. Bloodier 2015, you know, is the sort of dark question that we're asking on the first day of this new year. And I don't think anybody can be blamed for thinking that the year that, you know, stares us in the face could be an even more violent one than 2014 has been. What's your perspective, Mr. Ali?
Well, under normal circumstances, you cheer the new year in with hope and with optimism. But,
true, exactly.
But the way 2014 ended, it seems that we are in for more trouble in 2015 also. And the main problem, you see, lies that if both the countries, that is Pakistan and India, if they are serious about curbing terrorism, then we'll have to build, you know, a certain amount of trust in each other and also join forces to fight terrorism.
No, we hear this over and over again about trust, and I want to bring Colonel Saeed back in this. Colonel Saeed, I'm not asking you this as a loaded statement. I'm not asking you this in a rhetorical fashion, but if you could answer me this truthfully and, you know, without any sarcasm, that would be appreciated. Can you tell me one thing, name one thing that Pakistan has done in the last 1 year that can be interpreted as a trust-building measure, as a confidence-building measure as far as India and Pakistan relations are concerned on the issue of terrorism? One thing.
Right. Yes, when Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif last year came on to the oath-taking ceremony, the first meeting that took place between Mr. Modi and Mr. Nawaz Sharif...
That was at Modi's invitation, sir.
Listen, please listen. That was overridden by the irritant-based approach.
Not good enough.
From India.
Not good enough.
You started that with an irritant-based approach.
Not good enough.
Whenever Pakistan has talked of peace, Pakistan has not brought in any irritants. Now, if you ask me to believe that the whole India is threatened by somebody like Mr. Dawood Ibrahim or Mr. Hafiz Saeed or Lakhvi or whatever.
Sir, give me one thing. You're giving me reasons. You're supporting my argument. You're supporting my argument. Give me one. Give me one example.
One thing.
One example. Please give me one example. We don't have much time. One example of what Pakistan has done to give us a sense of trust.
The investments that he have in Bombay and film industry, that investment that he has in IPL, what have you done about it?
Give me one example of what Pakistan has done. Give me one example. No, give me one example of what Pakistan has done. I told you, don't give me rhetoric, sir. Don't give me rhetoric. No, don't give me rhetoric. Colonel, don't give me rhetoric. Give me an example. I'm sorry, you're giving me too much rhetoric. Give me one example.
Pakistan has never retaliated to Indian rhetoric of
that's the problem. I think what I've demonstrated here, is the precise problem, not just with you, but with Pakistan.
No, just ask
when you ask for an example of a trust-building measure, all you can do is outshout the other person and try and put the ball back into India's court.
The Pakistani panelists who are talking of war,
Colonel Saab,
Indian panelists who are talking of war.
Colonel Saab, you have an issue with Mullah Fazlullah. You say Mullah Fazlullah killed your people in Peshawar. Mullah Fazlullah killed 133 Pakistan children in Peshawar. Will you accept Mullah Fazlullah leading the Eid prayer in the Gaddafi Stadium?
Hold on.
You want peace with India while Hafiz Mohammed Saeed leads the Eid prayers at Gaddafi Stadium.
American Senate by nobody less than their defense secretary that India is financing trouble in Pakistan from Afghanistan. And they want to take problems away from the
with all due respect,
border to the Pakistani eastern border.
With all due respect, Colonel, I find it hard to believe that you're a student of peace. I mean, with all due respect, I cannot imagine. I asked you a direct question
I'm
about...
an ex-soldier.
No, I mean, this is distressing.
I look to 2015
I can speak as a citizen
I'm
today.
sure that somebody would come in India who would think of peace.
I can speak as a citizen of the subcontinent. Let me say I'm a citizen of the subcontinent today, and I can tell you that this is very upsetting. It's upsetting that the only thing that we can, actually expect when there's a debate of this kind is rhetoric. General Prasad, I want to turn that question on its head and ask you that. Has Pakistan done anything? And I'm talking about the smallest thing. I'm willing to be big-hearted, very, very generous when I ask you this question, General Prasad. Anything at all to even indicate a sense of trust?
Much as in the new year, I'd like to give some credit, some point in favor of Pakistan. I'm finding it very hard to recall a single issue on which I could give a positive statement. The problem is that let us on a new year, amongst us, a student of peace and us, can we find a method of understanding that who is suffering?
Right.
Pakistan is suffering more than what India is suffering. Indian policy today is very well clearly written to everybody and known. We want development, we want education, we want employment, we want better standards of living, and we want peace. We don't want war, we don't want to have people dying. That is nowhere in our agenda. So can we start to 2015 with a resolve that let us begin to show evidence to each other that we want to bridge this deficit of trust. We want to dismantle these training camps across the border. We want to seriously proceed against those people who are perpetrators of Mumbai. We want to stop this insurgency activities into Kashmir. Can we stop firing at least on the international border, for God's sake?
Yes.
Why have we activated the international border? Line of control, ceasefire violations have been going for so many years.
But
why has the international border been activated over the last couple of years? I mean, I can't understand the logic. Who's escalating it? Who's bringing up the pressure?
Right.
Time is now come that let us think more about peace. It is not in the interest of this part of the world to go to war, to continue killing people.
Yes.
Our objective is development. Our objective is better life for people.
Yeah.
So can we resolve on 2015 on both sides, let us reduce this trust deficit. Can we stop exchange of fire? And if the exchange of fire stops, we can resume dialogue. That is the stated position of our Prime Minister. Stop firing, bring peace on the border, and we will talk. Dialogue is the way forward. Can we encash on the statement of our Prime Minister?
Colonel Saeed, we've lost video with Colonel Saeed, but we can still hear him, and I hope he can hear us. Colonel Saeed, a broad sort of comment from General Prasad about how there has to be an end to bickering both specific and broad between India and Pakistan. At the end of the day, solutions have to be found to find some kind of common ground. I think the most common ground anybody can find is Pakistan has still has just had more than 100 of its children simply butchered. But even that, as Gaurav said, even that hasn't shown any kind of resolve from Pakistan for even symbolic gestures to show a sense of trust and commitment against terror.
Now, I want to ask you that what did you expect after the death of over 130, 140 children? What do you expected Pakistan doing?
Gaurav has the answer to that.
And India? Or what did you
Would you like to hear the answer?
That Pakistan is not went its way.
Would you like to hear the answer to that? Gaurav has the answer. Gaurav, go ahead.
Colonel, after the massacre of 133 children, and this should hurt you because the terrorists that your army trained singled out army children. They singled out children of officers, JCOs and Jawans and shot them at point blank range. Despite that, there is no resolve to go after the Quetta Shura. There is no resolve to go after the Tehreek-e-Taliban, the Haqqani network, and there is no resolve to go after the Lashkar-e-Taiba. They train together. Their handlers are the same in ISI. You cannot go after Waziristan terror and not go after Pakistan Punjab terror, sir.
If the deaths of 132 children remains, still keeps the administration, the authorities, the security forces in Pakistan selective about who their friends and enemies are, what hope is there even for your own people? Forget about India, Colonel.
Sir, I am getting a little perturbed. The way you are coining the things together make me believe that this is a game plan which you want to tell the world that look at Pakistan and this is something
nobody needs to tell the world that, sir. Unfortunately, nobody needs to tell the world that. Pakistan's reputation on the world stage is as a terrorist state. I think it's all but official.
I'm sorry to say that you had a plan.
I wish this had been a more constructive debate. That's the only thing I can say.
No, a man with anybody who can see.
We're out of time, sir.
Uses common senses. You make him believe something very strange.
We're out of time. Okay. Colonel Saeed, thanks very much for joining us. General Shankar Prasad, Gaurav Sawant, and to our other guests from Pakistan who contributed to this. It became louder and more feisty than I had originally planned on the first day of the new year. Perhaps it should have, been a little bit more constructive, but I think that illustrates perfectly the nature of what's happening between India and Pakistan.